The meeting room on Galactic Station Omega was cold and sterile. Marcus Chen sat alone at the small table meant for the human representative. Around him, 3 different alien species whispered among themselves in languages that sounded like broken glass, rushing water, and clicking insects. Marcus looked comfortable in his simple blue uniform. He had short black hair and calm brown eyes. At 35, he had spent most of his adult life studying alien creatures. Today, he was the only human in a room full of very worried aliens. Ambassador Zekthor stood first. The crystal being was tall and thin, made of what looked like living diamond. When nervous, small cracks appeared in his surface. Right now, those cracks were everywhere. The Galactic Council calls this emergency session to order, Zekthor said. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. We are here to discuss the human problem. Captain Rilnax floated in a water tank on wheels. She was blue-green with large black eyes and fins that moved like hands. The Satani had lived in oceans for millions of years before reaching space. This is not a discussion, she said, her voice bubbling through the water. This is a warning. Dr. Yathara said nothing, but her 8 legs clicked nervously on the floor. The arachnoid scientist was covered in dark fur and had 6 eyes that could look in different directions at once. Right now, all 6 eyes were watching Marcus. Marcus took a sip of coffee from his thermos. Good morning, everyone. Nice station you have here. The artificial gravity feels perfect. Zekthor's cracks grew wider. You are not taking this seriously, human Chen. I'm taking it very seriously, Marcus replied. But I'm also not panicking. Would you like to tell me what this is about? Captain Rilnax pressed a button, and a holographic screen appeared in the center of the room. The image showed a human settlement on a rocky planet. Children played in a park, while massive black creatures moved between the buildings. The creatures were the size of trucks with 6 legs and glowing eyes. This is Colony New Denver on Kepler 442b, Rilnax said. Those creatures are called Shadow Maws. They destroyed our mining operation on that planet in one night. 300 Satani died. Marcus leaned forward to get a better look. Ah yes, the Shadow Maws. Beautiful creatures. They're actually quite intelligent. All 3 aliens made sounds of shock. Zekthor's cracks spread so far that small pieces of crystal fell to the floor. Beautiful? Dr. Yathara spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft but had a hissing quality. Those things are killing machines. They hunt in perfect coordination. They can move through solid rock. They can phase shift through certain minerals, Marcus corrected. It's really quite amazing. They use quantum tunneling at the molecular level. We're still trying to understand how they do it. You're studying them? Rilnax's fins flapped in agitation. While they live in your cities? Marcus nodded. Of course. How else would we learn about them? Dr. Sarah Kim has been working with a pack of 12 Shadow Maws for 3 years now. They help with mining operations. They can find mineral deposits we would never notice. The hologram changed to show underwater footage. Massive tentacled creatures swam alongside human divers. The tentacles were as thick as tree trunks and the creatures' bodies were the size of whales. Leviathan Krakens, Rilnax said, her voice barely a whisper. On Tidal Prime. These monsters destroyed 3 of our research stations. They crushed our submersibles like they were made of paper. Marcus smiled. Oh, I know about Tidal Prime. The Krakens there are particularly friendly. The water is perfect for them. High mineral content, good pressure. The humans there have developed quite a partnership with them. Partnership? Rilnax rose higher in her tank. Those things are the reason my people fear the deep water. They are our ancestral nightmares. I understand, Marcus said gently. But humans see them differently. The Krakens are actually very gentle. They only attack when they feel threatened. Once you learn to communicate with them properly, they're quite helpful. They can carry heavy equipment to places submarines can't reach. The third hologram showed a desert planet. Spider-like creatures the size of cars moved across sand dunes. Their legs were sharp and metallic, and they moved in perfect formations like soldiers. Dr. Yathara shuddered, all 8 of her legs pulling closer to her body. Void Hunters, Sirion 7th. We lost an entire scientific expedition to these creatures, 123 of my people. These things can survive in space. They hunt in swarms. Marcus examined the image carefully. The Void Hunters are remarkable. They can actually live in a vacuum for short periods. Their exoskeletons are incredibly strong. The humans on Zarian 7 have learned to work with them in the mining operations. Work with them? Dr. Yathara's voice rose to a shriek. They eat metal. They destroyed our equipment and then... She paused, unable to continue. They're not actually carnivorous, Marcus explained. They eat certain metals for nutrition, yes, but they don't hunt other life forms for food. The attacks on your people happened because the Void Hunters were protecting their nesting grounds. Your expedition accidentally built their base on top of a nursery. Zekthor stepped forward, crystal fragments still falling from his body. Human Chen, do you not understand? These creatures have forced 3 major galactic civilizations to abandon entire star systems. They are apex predators. They kill everything in their path. Marcus set down his coffee and looked at each alien in turn. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Yes, these are dangerous creatures, but they're not monsters. They're animals with their own behaviors, their own needs, their own ways of communicating. Communicating? Rilnax laughed, a sound like bubbles popping. You cannot communicate with death incarnate. Actually, you can, Marcus said. It just takes patience and understanding. Humans have been doing it for thousands of years on our own planet. Dr. Yathara clicked her legs rapidly. Your planet must be a death world beyond our imagination. Marcus shrugged. Earth has its challenges. We had to learn to live alongside dangerous predators. Tigers, wolves, bears, sharks. Creatures that could easily kill a human. But we didn't just fight them or run away. We learned to understand them. The 3 aliens exchanged glances. None of them could understand what Marcus was saying. In their experience, dangerous predators meant death. You either killed them first or you fled to another planet. The evidence is clear, Zekthor said finally. Humans are either completely insane or they have some ability we do not understand. Either way, they are dangerous to the established order of the galaxy. Marcus finished his coffee and stood up. I understand your concerns. Really, I do. But I think you're looking at this the wrong way. These creatures aren't our enemies. They're potential allies. Before any of the aliens could respond, a loud alarm began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed and an automated voice announced, Security breach. Unknown life form detected. All personnel report to secure locations immediately. Marcus looked at his watch and smiled. Oh, that's probably Luna. She must be awake from her nap. The 3 aliens stared at him in horror as the alarms continued to blare around them. The alarms stopped, but the red lights kept flashing. Ambassador Zekthor was shaking so hard that crystal dust fell like snow around his feet. Captain Rilnax had sunk to the bottom of her tank, and Dr. Yathara had pressed herself against the far wall. Marcus remained calm, checking his tablet while the aliens panicked. She's probably looking for me. Luna doesn't like being alone on strange ships. Luna. Zekthor's voice cracked like breaking glass. Who is Luna? My research partner's daughter, Marcus said casually. She's young, maybe 6 months old. Still learning proper behavior. Dr. Yathara made a choking sound. You brought a predator cub to a diplomatic meeting? She's not exactly a cub anymore, Marcus corrected. More like a teenager. Growing fast, though. Last month, she was only the size of a large dog. Now she's probably as big as a small horse. The security screen in the room flickered to life. It showed empty corridors with emergency lights casting red shadows on the walls. Then movement caught their attention. Something dark and sleek moved past one of the cameras too quickly to see clearly. There she is, Marcus said, pointing at the screen. She moves fast when she's excited. Captain Rilnax found her voice. What species is this Luna? Marcus looked surprised by the question. Oh, didn't I mention? She's a nightmare wolf, from Morrigan's Gate. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. All 3 aliens knew about Morrigan's Gate. It was a death world so dangerous that even the bravest space explorers avoided it. The planet was covered in creatures that hunted using fear itself as a weapon. Nightmare wolf, Dr. Yathara whispered. Those things killed an entire arachnoid colony. 5,000 of my people. They hunted us through our own city for 3 days before we managed to escape. Marcus nodded sadly. Yes, I read about that incident. Very unfortunate. The colony was built right on top of their sacred hunting grounds. The wolves were just defending their territory. Defending? Zekthor's cracks spread wider. They used psychological warfare. They drove my people insane with fear before killing them. Well, they do produce subsonic frequencies that can affect nervous systems, Marcus admitted. And their pheromones can trigger panic responses in most species. But that's just how they hunt. It's not personal. The security screen showed another glimpse of movement. This time they could see more clearly. A creature about the size of a motorcycle moved through the corridor with liquid grace. Its body was covered in midnight black fur, and 6 powerful legs carried it silently across the metal floor. Bioluminescent patterns glowed along its sides like blue fire. "Look at those markings," Marcus said with obvious admiration. "She's excited. Probably picked up my scent." Captain Rilnak stared at the screen in horror. "Those patterns, they're beautiful." "That's the danger," Dr. Yathara hissed. "Nightmare wolves use their beauty to lure prey closer. Then they release terror pheromones that paralyze their victims." Marcus frowned. "That's not quite right. The pheromones are actually a form of communication. They're telling other creatures about their emotional state. Luna's patterns right now are saying she's happy and looking for someone she knows." On the screen, Luna paused at a junction in the corridor. Her head lifted, and even through the silent security feed, they could see her nostrils flare as she tested the air. Then she turned and headed directly toward the meeting room. "She's tracking you," Zekthor said, his voice barely audible. "Of course," Marcus replied.
"She has an excellent nose."
"Probably caught my scent the moment she woke up." The 3 aliens watched in fascination and terror as Luna moved through the station. She passed several automated security stations without triggering them. When she came to a locked door, she simply pressed one massive paw against the control panel. Her claws were sharp enough to slice through the metal like paper, and the door slid open. "She's very smart," Marcus observed. "Quick learner, too. Dr. Rodriguez has been teaching her about technology." "Dr. Rodriguez?" Rilnax asked weakly. "Luna's mother figure," Marcus explained. "Elena Rodriguez, xenobiologist. She's been raising Luna since she was tiny. Found her orphaned on Morrigan's Gate during a research expedition." Dr. Yathara's eyes widened. "Someone went to Morrigan's Gate voluntarily?" "Of course. How else would we study the local wildlife?" Elena spent 2 years there learning about nightmare wolf behavior. She discovered they're actually highly social creatures with complex family structures. On the screen, Luna had reached another security checkpoint. This one activated when she approached, sending out scanning beams of light. Luna sat back on her haunches and waited patiently while the scanners examined her. "She knows about security protocols," Marcus noted approvingly. Elena taught her well. The security system flashed red and began making warning sounds. Luna tilted her head, clearly confused by the hostile response. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted from happy blue to cautious yellow. "The system doesn't recognize her species," Zekthor observed. "No, it probably classifies her as a severe threat," Marcus said. "Most security systems aren't programmed to handle nightmare wolves peacefully." Luna stood up and approached the checkpoint more carefully. When the warning sounds got louder, her patterns shifted to orange. Still cautious, but with hints of irritation. "She's getting annoyed," Marcus warned. "Luna doesn't like loud noises." The security checkpoint suddenly deployed energy barriers trying to contain Luna. She stepped back, and her patterns flashed bright red for just a moment. The subsonic sound she made was too low for the microphones to pick up, but the effect was immediate. The corridor lights flickered, and small cracks appeared in the walls. "Fear response," Dr. Yathara said, all 8 legs trembling. "She's preparing to hunt." Marcus stood up quickly. "I should go get her before she gets really upset. Luna's never been on a space station before. All this technology probably confuses her." "No," all 3 aliens said at once. "You cannot go out there," Zekthor pleaded. "That creature is in hunting mode. It will kill you instantly." Marcus looked genuinely puzzled. "Kill me? Luna would never hurt me." "She knows who I am." On the screen, Luna had begun pacing back and forth in front of the energy barriers. Her movements were becoming more agitated, and her patterns were shifting between red and orange in rapid flashes. "Look at those movement patterns," Dr. Yathara whispered. "She's calculating attack vectors, planning how to break through." "She's trying to solve a puzzle," Marcus corrected. "Luna's very intelligent. She knows I'm somewhere beyond those barriers, and she's figuring out how to reach me safely." Captain Rilnax watched as Luna suddenly leaped backward, then charged forward with incredible speed. Her shoulder hit the energy barrier with tremendous force. Sparks flew and the barrier flickered but held. "The barriers won't hold for long," Rilnax said. "Those creatures are incredibly strong." Luna stepped back and examined the checkpoint more carefully. She walked around it slowly, her 6 legs moving with perfect coordination. Then she did something that surprised everyone. She sat down and began making soft whimpering sounds. "What is she doing?" Zekthor asked. Marcus smiled. "She's calling for help." That's what young nightmare wolves do when they're stuck. They call for their family. The whimpering sounds grew louder and Luna's patterns shifted to a deep blue that pulsed slowly. Even through the security cameras, the sound was somehow touching. It didn't sound like a monster anymore. It sounded like a lost child. She sounds sad, Captain Rilnak said, surprised by her own words. She is sad, Marcus confirmed. She wants to find me, but she doesn't want to break anything. Elena taught her to be careful around technology. Dr. Yathara stared at the screen. I have studied predator behavior for 40 years. I have never seen anything like this. That's because you've only seen them when they're threatened or defending territory, Marcus explained. This is what they're like normally. They're family creatures. They take care of each other. Luna's calls were getting more urgent. Her patterns had shifted to a rapid blue pulse that somehow conveyed desperation. She stood up and placed both front paws against the energy barrier, careful not to trigger the defenses again. I really should go to her, Marcus said. She's getting scared. Absolutely not, Zekthor said firmly. We will contact station security. They can handle this situation. Marcus looked at him seriously. With respect, Ambassador. Your security forces would only make things worse. If Luna feels threatened, she'll defend herself. And trust me, you don't want to see what a scared nightmare wolf can do. As if responding to his words, Luna's pattern suddenly flashed bright white, a color none of them had seen before. The subsonic sound she made was powerful enough to shake the entire station. Emergency lights began flashing in the corridors and several security cameras went offline. Warning call, Marcus said grimly. She's telling any other nightmare wolves in the area that there's danger. Good thing she's alone. The three aliens looked at Marcus with new understanding. They were beginning to realize that they were not just dealing with a dangerous predator. They were dealing with something far more complex and potentially more dangerous. A creature with intelligence, emotions, and the power to level a space station if it chose to. And somehow, this human claimed he could control it with a whistle. The station shook again as Luna's warning calls grew stronger. Cracks appeared in the meeting room walls and the lights flickered. Ambassador Zekthor was now missing several chunks of crystal from his body, and Dr. Yathara had curled into a defensive ball with all her legs tucked underneath her. Captain Rilnax's tank had emergency stabilizers that kept the water from spilling, but she was pressed against the bottom, her fins spread wide in a fear response. The creature is bringing down the station, she whispered. Marcus checked his tablet again. She's not trying to damage anything. Luna's just scared and confused. The security systems keep responding to her as a threat, which makes her more nervous. On the security screens, they could see station personnel running through distant corridors. Emergency bulkheads were sealing automatically, and weapon systems were powering up throughout the facility. Your people are making it worse, Marcus said with concern. All this military response is going to trigger her defensive instincts. Zekthor managed to speak through his panic. What do you suggest we do? Let me go talk to her, Marcus said simply. I can calm her down. That's suicide, Dr. Yathara uncurled enough to speak. She's in full territorial defense mode now. She'll attack anything that moves. Marcus shook his head. Luna knows me. She'll recognize my scent long before she sees me. Nightmare wolves have incredible senses. Another powerful subsonic pulse shook the station. This time, several light fixtures fell from the ceiling, and the security screens went fuzzy with interference. The station structure cannot handle much more of this, Captain Rilnax reported, reading data from her tablet. Hull stress is approaching critical levels. Marcus stood up and walked toward the door. Then I need to go now before she panics completely. Wait. Zekthor stumbled forward, crystal fragments falling from his feet. Even if you are correct about this creature's attachment to you, how can you be certain? What if you are wrong? Marcus paused at the door. I've never been wrong about Luna before. She's been part of my research team for 4 months now. I know her moods, her signals, her behavior patterns. Dr. Yathara's 6 eyes focused on him with intense curiosity. You speak of this predator as if it were a colleague. Because she is, Marcus replied. Luna helps with our research. She can detect chemical traces that our instruments miss. She can navigate dangerous terrain that would kill a human. And she remembers things, locations, scents, sounds. She's not just intelligent. She's brilliant. The security door to the meeting room was reinforced and locked, but Marcus placed his hand on the access panel. Override authorization Chen 7 Alpha 9, he said clearly. The door clicked and began to slide open. All three aliens made sounds of alarm. "You have override authority?" Zekthor asked in shock. "Emergency diplomatic protocols," Marcus explained. "If the station is in danger, I'm authorized to take necessary action to protect it." Captain Rilnax rose in her tank. "This is madness. We should evacuate the station and call for military support." Marcus looked back at her seriously. "Captain, if you call in warships, Luna will think she's under attack. A frightened nightmare wolf with military vessels shooting at her won't just damage this station. She'll tear through your entire fleet trying to escape." The door finished opening, revealing the corridor beyond. Emergency lights cast everything in red shadows, and the air hummed with tension. In the distance, they could hear Luna's calls echoing through the station's ventilation system. "I'll monitor everything through the security cameras," Marcus said. "If something goes wrong, seal the emergency bulkheads and evacuate the diplomatic section." "What if she kills you?" Dr. Yathara asked quietly. Marcus smiled. "Then you'll know I was wrong about human-predator relationships. But I'm not wrong." He stepped into the corridor and the door sealed behind him. The three aliens crowded around the security monitors, watching as Marcus walked calmly through the red-lit hallways. "He moves like prey," Dr. Yathara observed. "No defensive postures, no weapons, no protective equipment. He moves like someone going to meet a friend," Zekthor corrected, though his voice still shook. On the screens, they could see Marcus following Luna's trail. He seemed to know exactly where she was, turning through corridors without hesitation. Sometimes he paused to examine claw marks on the walls or to sniff the air like he was tracking her scent. "How does he know where to go?" Captain Rilnax asked. "He said he knows her behavior patterns," Zekthor replied. "Perhaps he can predict her movements." Marcus reached the section where Luna had been stopped by the security checkpoint. The energy barriers were still active, but there was no sign of her. Twisted metal and scorched walls showed where she had finally broken through. She got past the barriers, Dr. Yathara noted. Marcus examined the damage and nodded to himself. Then he continued deeper into the station, following a trail only he could see. The aliens watched in fascination as Marcus moved through their most secure facility like he owned it. He showed no fear, no caution, no awareness that he was tracking a creature that could tear him apart in seconds. There. Captain Rilnax pointed at one of the screens. Luna was in the station's central hub, a large open area with multiple levels connected by walkways. She had climbed to the highest platform and was pacing back and forth, her bioluminescent patterns flashing in rapid, angry pulses. "She's agitated," Dr. Yathara observed. "Look at those movement patterns. She's preparing for a fight." Luna suddenly stopped pacing and lifted her head. Her nostrils flared and her patterns shifted from angry red to surprised yellow. "She's caught his scent," Zekthor said. On another screen, they could see Marcus entering the lower level of the central hub. He looked up at Luna and raised one hand in a simple wave. Luna's reaction was immediate. Her patterns shifted to bright blue, and she made a sound that was part whimper, part purr. She leaped from the high platform with incredible grace, her 6 legs absorbing the impact as she landed on the level below Marcus. "She's going to attack," Dr. Yathara whispered. But Luna didn't attack. Instead, she moved toward Marcus slowly. Her body language completely changed. Where before she had been all coiled tension and predatory grace, now she moved like a young animal approaching someone she trusted. Marcus stood perfectly still as Luna approached. When she was close enough, he extended his hand palm up, the same gesture humans used with nervous dogs. Luna sniffed his hand carefully, then pressed her massive head against his palm. Her patterns shifted to the deepest blue they had seen, pulsing slowly in what could only be described as contentment. She's not going to hurt him," Captain Rilnax said in amazement. Marcus began speaking to Luna in a low, calm voice. The security cameras couldn't pick up his words, but they could see Luna's response. Her patterns became even calmer, and she sat down beside him like an enormous, deadly pet. "This is impossible," Dr. Yathara said. "Everything we know about predator behavior says this cannot happen." Zekthor was slowly rebuilding his crystal structure as his panic faded. "Perhaps everything we know is wrong." On the screen, Marcus was now scratching behind Luna's ears, or what passed for ears on a nightmare wolf. She had closed her eyes and was making a rumbling sound that vibrated through the station's structure. "She's purring," Captain Rilnax said in wonder. "Nightmare wolves purr?" Dr. Yathara asked. Apparently they do when they're happy, Zekthor replied. Marcus said something to Luna, and she stood up. Together, they began walking toward the exit that would bring them back to the diplomatic section. Luna stayed close to Marcus's side, her patterns calm and her movements relaxed. He's bringing her back here, Dr. Yathara realized with fresh panic. She appears to be under his control, Zekthor observed, or at least responding to his guidance. Captain Rilnax was studying her instruments. Station stress levels are returning to normal. Whatever he did, it worked. The security screen showed Marcus and Luna walking through the corridors together. Station personnel they passed pressed themselves against the walls in terror, but Luna ignored them completely. Her attention was focused entirely on Marcus. Look at her body language, Dr. Yathara said, her scientific mind overcoming her fear. She's not hunting. She's not territorial. She's following, like a pack member, Zekthor added thoughtfully. Or a friend, Captain Rilnax suggested. As they got closer to the meeting room, the three aliens could hear Marcus's voice through the corridor speakers. He was talking to Luna in the same casual tone he had used with them earlier, explaining where they were going and who they would meet. He's preparing her for social interaction, Dr. Yathara realized. He's telling her how to behave around us. Luna's pattern shifted slightly, taking on shades of curiosity mixed with her contentment. She was listening to Marcus and responding with soft sounds that seemed almost like words. 5 minutes. Marcus's voice came through the comm system. We'll be there in 5 minutes. Luna's very excited to meet you all. The three aliens looked at each other. In a few minutes, they would be sharing a room with one of the galaxy's most feared predators, and somehow a single human had convinced them it would be safe. They were about to learn something new about humanity, about predators, and about the nature of fear itself. The door to the meeting room slid open and Marcus stepped inside. Behind him, Luna's massive form filled the doorway. She was even more impressive in person than on the security screens. Luna stood about 4 feet tall at her shoulder, with 6 powerful legs that ended in retractable claws. Her body was sleek and muscular, covered in midnight black fur that seemed to absorb light. The bioluminescent patterns along her sides pulsed with soft blue light, creating shifting designs that were both beautiful and alien. Her head was elongated, with large, intelligent eyes that glowed with their own inner light. When she opened her mouth slightly, they could see rows of sharp teeth designed for tearing through metal and bone. But most unsettling of all was her obvious intelligence. This was not a simple animal. This was a thinking, reasoning creature. Ambassador Zekthor had pressed himself against the far wall, his crystal body making small tinkling sounds as he trembled. Captain Rilnax had sunk to the bottom of her tank and was trying to make herself as small as possible. Dr. Yathara had curled into a tight ball again, but her 6 eyes remained fixed on Luna. Luna sniffed the air carefully, her nostrils flaring as she analyzed the scents in the room. Her patterns shifted to curious yellow with hints of caution. She could smell their fear and it was making her nervous. Easy, Luna, Marcus said softly. He placed one hand on her neck just behind her head. These are the friends I told you about, remember? The ones who wanted to meet you. Luna's pattern shifted back to calm blue, but she stayed close to Marcus's side. Her eyes moved from one alien to another, studying them with obvious intelligence. Marcus guided Luna to the center of the room and then did something that shocked all 3 aliens. He sat down on the floor, putting himself at Luna's eye level. Luna, sit, he said in the same gentle tone. Luna immediately sat down beside him, her tail, which ended in a tuft of bioluminescent fur, curling around her feet. In this position, she looked less threatening, though no less impressive. Now, Marcus said, looking at the 3 aliens, I'd like you all to meet Luna properly. Luna, these are my colleagues. The crystal person is Ambassador Zekthor. The one in the water is Captain Rilnax. And the spider-like being is Dr. Yathara. Luna turned her head toward each alien as Marcus named them, her pattern shifting to brighter blue. She made a soft sound, not quite a purr, not quite a whistle, that seemed to be some form of greeting. Did she just say hello? Dr. Yathara asked, uncurling slightly. In her own way, yes, Marcus confirmed. Nightmare wolves have a complex communication system. That sound means peaceful acknowledgement of presence. It's how they greet non-pack members who aren't threats. Zekthor managed to speak, though his voice still shook. She understands language? Marcus scratched behind Luna's ears and she leaned into his touch. She understands tone, body language, and some specific words. Luna's been learning human speech patterns for months. She knows her name, basic commands, and about 50 other words. 50 words? Captain Rilnax rose slightly in her tank. That's more vocabulary than some sentient species have. Nightmare wolves are very intelligent, Marcus explained. In the wild, they use dozens of different vocalizations, scent markers, and bioluminescent patterns to communicate complex ideas. They have to coordinate pack hunts across vast territories. Luna suddenly turned her attention to Dr. Yithara, tilting her head with obvious curiosity. Her patterns shifted to bright yellow with swirls of green, colors they hadn't seen before. "What is she doing?" Dr. Yithara asked nervously. Marcus smiled. "She's curious about you. Nightmare wolves don't encounter many spider-like species. She's trying to figure out how you move with 8 legs." Luna stood up slowly and took a step toward Dr. Yithara. The arachnoid scientist immediately curled back into a defensive ball. But Luna stopped moving and sat down again. Her patterns shifted to gentle blue with slow pulses. "She recognizes your fear response," Marcus observed. "Luna's backing off to give you space. She doesn't want to scare you." "A predator that doesn't want to scare prey?" Zekthor asked in amazement. "Luna doesn't see you as prey," Marcus explained. "You're too small to be worth hunting, you don't smell like food, and you're not in her territory. To her, you're just interesting creatures she's never seen before." Captain Rilnax was studying Luna's movements with professional interest. Her coordination is remarkable. 6 legs, but she moves like she's dancing. "Nightmare wolves are perfectly adapted for their environment," Marcus said proudly. "They can run at 60 miles per hour, climb vertical rock faces, and jump distances that would be impossible for most creatures their size." Luna heard the admiration in his voice and made a pleased purring sound. Her patterns brightened, and she performed a little display, standing up on her hind legs and balancing perfectly while her front forelegs moved in a complex pattern. "She's showing off," Dr. Yithara said, finally uncurling completely. "She likes praise," Marcus confirmed. "Luna's still young and she enjoys attention. Watch this." He reached into his pocket and pulled out what looked like a metal ball. "Luna, catch." He tossed the ball across the room. Luna's reaction was lightning fast. She leaped from her sitting position, caught the ball in midair, and landed gracefully near the far wall. Then she brought the ball back to Marcus and dropped it at his feet, her patterns flashing with excitement. "She plays fetch," Captain Rilnax said in wonder. "She plays lots of games," Marcus said, picking up the ball. "Luna loves puzzles, hide and seek, and something we call find the treasure, where she has to locate hidden objects using scent." Zekthor was slowly moving away from the wall, his crystal structure stabilizing as his fear decreased. "This behavior? It's not what we expected from an apex predator." "That's because you've only heard about nightmare wolves in combat situations," Marcus explained. "When they're defending territory or hunting for survival, yes, they're incredibly dangerous. But in their normal daily lives, they're social, playful, and curious." Luna had noticed Zekthor moving and turned her attention to him. Her patterns shifted to a soft orange with yellow swirls, another new combination. "What does that color pattern mean?" Zekthor asked, stopping his movement. Marcus looked at Luna's lights and smiled. "She thinks you're beautiful. The orange-yellow combination is what nightmare wolves show when they see something aesthetically pleasing." "She thinks I'm beautiful?" Zekthor sounded stunned. "Your crystal structure reflects light in patterns that appeal to her," Marcus explained. "Nightmare wolves appreciate symmetry and light refraction. To Luna, you probably look like a living work of art." Luna made a soft sound and tilted her head toward Zekthor in what was clearly an invitation. "She wants you to come closer," Marcus said. "She'd like to see how your crystals work." Zekthor hesitated for a long moment, then took a careful step forward. Luna's patterns brightened with excitement, but she remained perfectly still. "She won't move until you're comfortable," Marcus assured him. "Nightmare wolves are very good at reading body language. She knows you're nervous." Encouraged, Zekthor took another step, then another. When he was about 6 feet away from Luna, she made a questioning sound. "She's asking permission to come closer," Marcus translated. Zekthor looked at Marcus, then at Luna's calm, patient expression. Finally, he nodded. Luna stood up slowly and approached Zekthor with careful, deliberate movements. When she was close enough, she lowered her head and made a soft humming sound. She's complimenting your structure, Marcus explained. That humming means impressive or well-made. Zekthor stared at Luna in amazement. She's actually looking at me. Not as prey or threat, just looking. Exactly, Marcus said. This is what I've been trying to tell you. These creatures aren't mindless killing machines. They're individuals with personalities, preferences, and complex social behaviors. Dr. Yathara had been watching this interaction with growing fascination. The implications for xenobiology are staggering. If this level of intelligence exists in species we've classified as non-sentient predators, then we've been making a lot of mistakes. Captain Rilnax finished. How many worlds have we abandoned that might have been home to creatures like Luna? Marcus stood up and brushed off his uniform. That's exactly what I hope this meeting will accomplish. A new understanding between our species. Luna looked around the room at the three aliens, all of whom were now watching her with curiosity rather than terror. Her pattern shifted to a warm golden color that pulsed slowly and rhythmically. What does that pattern mean? Dr. Yathara asked. Marcus smiled widely. Contentment. She's happy to have made new friends. The aliens looked at each other, then at Luna, then at Marcus. Something fundamental had shifted in their understanding of the universe, but they were about to learn that this was only the beginning of what humans could teach them about living with the galaxy's most dangerous creatures. The meeting room had transformed from a place of terror into something resembling a peaceful gathering. Luna lay on the floor near the center of the room, her patterns glowing with soft golden light. The three aliens had moved closer, though they still maintained respectful distances. Marcus sat cross-legged beside Luna, one hand resting on her neck. I know this challenges everything you've been taught about predator species, he said, but I want you to understand why humans can do what seems impossible to you. Ambassador Zekthor had approached close enough to study Luna's bioluminescent patterns in detail. Please explain, Human Chen. How do your people accomplish these relationships? Marcus thought for a moment, choosing his words carefully. It starts with how humans evolved. Our planet Earth was what you would call a death world. We shared it with creatures that were bigger, stronger, and faster than us. Dr. Yathara leaned forward with interest. So you developed weapons? Technology to defeat them? Some humans did, Marcus agreed. But the successful ones learned something different. We learned to understand them. Captain Rilnax floated higher in her tank. Understanding predators seems counterproductive to survival, Marcus smiled. Actually, it's the key to survival. Let me give you an example. On Earth, we have creatures called wolves. They're pack hunters, intelligent and perfectly capable of killing humans. For thousands of years, humans feared wolves and hunted them. Luna lifted her head at the word wolves and made a soft, questioning sound. Yes, Luna, similar to your people, Marcus said, scratching her ears. Anyway, some humans took a different approach. Instead of fighting wolves, they studied them. They learned how wolf packs worked, how they communicated, how they formed social bonds. And then? Zekthor asked. Then they became part of the pack, Marcus said simply. Those wolves became the first dogs. Humans and canines have been partners for over 30,000 years. The three aliens exchanged glances. This was not the kind of evolution they had expected from a species capable of space travel. But surely this only worked with one species. Dr. Yathara protested. You cannot form bonds with every predator. Marcus shook his head. Humans have formed working relationships with hundreds of predator species. Cats, hawks, dolphins, horses, even some types of sharks. We learned that most predators aren't evil or mindlessly aggressive. They're just trying to survive, like everyone else. Luna rolled onto her side, exposing her belly in a gesture of complete trust. Marcus rubbed her stomach and she made contented rumbling sounds that vibrated through the floor. The key is understanding what each species needs, Marcus continued. Nightmare wolves are social creatures. They need companionship, mental stimulation, and a sense of purpose. When humans offer those things, wolves like Luna respond with loyalty and cooperation. Captain Rilnax was studying data on her tablet. But the reports from our colonies, these creatures killed thousands of our people. Because your people treated them as enemies, Marcus explained gently. When you arrived on their worlds with weapons and mining equipment, they saw you as invaders. They defended their territory the only way they knew how. Zekthor's crystal structure was now completely stable, and he was close enough to Luna to see the intricate patterns in her fur. You're saying we created the conflicts? Not intentionally, Marcus said. But yes, Most galactic species approach dangerous worlds the same way, with overwhelming force and defensive technology. To creatures like Luna, that looks like an invasion army. Dr. Yathara clicked her legs thoughtfully. And humans approach them differently? We approach them as potential partners, Marcus confirmed. When Dr. Rodriguez first went to Morrigan's Gate, she didn't bring weapons or mining equipment. She brought research gear and a lot of patience. Luna suddenly sat up, her patterns shifting to alert blue. A moment later, they could all hear footsteps in the corridor outside. Someone's coming, Marcus said, checking his tablet. Ah, that'll be Dr. Rodriguez now. The door slid open and a woman in her 40s entered the room. She had graying hair tied back in a practical ponytail and wore the same blue uniform as Marcus. When she saw Luna, her face broke into a wide smile. There's my girl, Dr. Rodriguez said warmly. I was wondering where you'd wandered off to. Luna leaped to her feet and bounded over to Dr. Rodriguez, her patterns blazing with excitement. She made a series of complex sounds that were clearly some form of communication. Yes, I know you met new friends, Dr. Rodriguez said, understanding Luna's vocalizations. Did you behave yourself? Luna's response was a proud purr, and she nuzzled against Dr. Rodriguez's shoulder. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Marcus said, making introductions. Luna's primary caretaker and the galaxy's leading expert on nightmare wolf behavior. Dr. Rodriguez approached the three aliens with Luna padding beside her. Pleased to meet you all. I hope Luna didn't cause too much excitement. She nearly brought down the station, Zekthor said. But his tone was more amazed than accusatory. Separation anxiety, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Luna's never been away from human contact for more than a few hours. When she woke up alone on an unfamiliar ship, she panicked. Captain Rilnak studied the way Luna stayed close to Dr. Rodriguez, occasionally touching her with her nose or the tip of her tail. The bond between you is remarkable. I've been Luna's mother since she was 8 weeks old, Dr. Rodriguez said, running her hand along Luna's neck. Her birth pack was killed by a volcanic eruption on Morrigan's Gate. She was the only survivor. Dr. Yathara's 6 eyes widened. You raised an apex predator from infancy? It wasn't easy, Dr. Rodriguez admitted. Nightmare wolf cubs need constant attention, specialized nutrition, and very specific social interaction. But Luna was worth every sleepless night. Marcus stood up and addressed the 3 aliens directly. This is what I want you to understand. Humans don't see these creatures as monsters to be feared or enemies to be defeated. We see them as individuals with their own needs, their own intelligence, their own capacity for forming relationships. Zekthor was still staring at Luna in fascination. The implications for colonial policy are enormous. Exactly, Marcus agreed. Instead of abandoning worlds with dangerous predators, we could learn to coexist with them. Think about the possibilities. Shadowmaws helping with mining, Leviathan Krakens assisting with underwater construction, Void Hunters providing security in space stations. Captain Rilnax was nodding slowly. A complete paradigm shift in how we approach hostile environments. Dr. Rodriguez had produced a tablet and was showing something to Luna, who studied the screen with obvious interest. Luna's been learning to use human technology, she explained. She can operate simple interfaces and even send basic messages. Messages? Dr. Yathara asked. Luna approached the nearest wall panel and pressed her paw against it in a specific pattern. The lights in the room dimmed, then brightened, then created a slow, rhythmic pattern that matched her bioluminescent display. She's syncing the room lights with her emotional state, Dr. Rodriguez explained proudly. It's her way of making everyone feel more comfortable. The effect was remarkable. The synchronized lights seemed to create a sense of calm and peace in the room. Even the 3 aliens found their stress levels decreasing. Incredible, Zekthor breathed. She's manipulating the environment for social purposes. Marcus nodded. This is why humans succeed where other species fail. We don't try to dominate these creatures or force them to submit. We work with them, learn from them, and find ways to benefit both species. Luna returned to the center of the room and lay down again. But this time she positioned herself so all 3 aliens could see her clearly. Her patterns had shifted to the warm golden glow that meant contentment and acceptance. She likes you, Dr. Rodriguez observed. Luna's usually much more cautious around new species. Captain Rilnax was making notes on her tablet. I believe we owe the human delegation an apology. And perhaps a request for cooperation. Cooperation? Marcus asked. Zekthor stepped forward, his crystal structure now completely stable and reflecting Luna's golden light beautifully. "We would like to learn your methods. Perhaps there are worlds we abandoned too quickly, species we misunderstood." Dr. Yathara clicked her agreement. "The scientific possibilities alone justify a complete review of our colonial policies." Marcus smiled and looked at Dr. Rodriguez, who nodded approvingly. "We'd be happy to share our knowledge, but it won't be easy. Learning to work with apex predators takes patience, dedication, and a willingness to see the universe from a completely different perspective." Luna made a soft sound and looked around the room at all the beings present. Her patterns pulsed once with bright, warm light, then settled into a gentle glow. "What did she just say?" Zekthor asked. Dr. Rodriguez translated with a smile. "She said family. Luna just declared all of you part of her extended pack." The three aliens looked at each other, then at the magnificent predator who had just adopted them, then at the two humans who had made it all possible. They were beginning to understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to find friendship in the most unlikely places, to build bridges across the vast differences between species, and to see potential allies where others saw only threats. The galaxy would never be the same.